Alrighty. Welcome back to Nicholas Comic Corner Classics less non-classics. This is episode number 1592 and Doubleshot number 1486. One Marvel trade, one DC trade. This first one is the pendulum trade for this very short series. This is Wolverines, Volume 3, The Living and the Dead, collecting issues 11 to 15 of the series. Still same writers, Charles Shaw, Ray Fox. And from what I can tell, they have different interior. Well, we have Juan Doe, who was one of the artists for previous issues, who did issue 15. Salvador Roca did issue 14. Jason Masters 13. Arlena Christina issue 11. Arno Inido did issue 12. The cover art, surprisingly, for 5 issues, so have one every issue, we only had 2. We had Chris Aka, who did issue 11 and 12, and then the last 3 done by Gilliam March. I'm like, okay, interesting. Yeah, if you want to explain exactly what happened in these issues, we just have basically, like, Laura basically going on a little conversation with Fang, which is really he's actually a clone. Yep, what else? Oh yeah, they're also setting up toward the very end of the series by having turn of the character Siphon, who actually first appeared in Death of Wolverine Logan Legacy number 7. The very same creature to bring this character back. The whole purpose of this creature to bring him back is to help pretty much in a way kind of rush the end of the series. That's kind of the best way to describe it, because this is another set of issues where not a lot of stuff happens. We also have a really cool scene where we have from the kill where she breaks into a vault that's owned by Wolverine. And then we have, well, apparently Deathstrike and Shogun basically are fighting, despite the fact last time we saw these two, they had just finished having sex, and now they're fighting each other because of Ogun. Then, of course, Fang takes Shogun and seals away Ogun and takes him on for an issue. And then Deadpool shows up. Yes, Deadpool. Always great to see this guy. Yeah, another character. I mean, he's literally a Wolverine, so yeah, he just goes around parading in this issue, and the next thing, just parading in Wolverine's costume for an issue. There is mention here by, well, U.S. Agent and Black Widow. That doesn't do much or anything. Issue 5 is, well, having where Doc goes after Siphon. And we also have a debut of a new character in this book. Who is this guy? Look at him, he might be Darkhawk. Except, nope, that's not Darkhawk. His name is Portal. He actually, not technically first appeared in the pages of Darkhawk. He actually first appeared in the pages of Avengers. You could say he's an old villain from the 1990s. Actually, it's from the 80s. He's not a very known villain. Basically, the whole purpose of him, except the next 5 issues. That's the whole purpose of him being here. And then, it gets more really weird here. Where in issue 15, we actually have Blade show up. Yes, Blade. Shows up here for like 1 issue, and that's it for him. Then Mystique basically, she had posed as Daken to get some information of, well, some talking with Laura, and yeah. So, yeah, basically a lot of like middle of the road type issues per se. I mean, with the exception of seeing Deadpool and Blade on another set of issues where not a lot of stuff happens. I mean, still good artwork though. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but not really much I'll say about that. I'm gonna get also that an 8.5 out of 10. I will be discussing the final issues in the next comic corner. Don't worry about that. I don't have the trade for it, but I will discuss. Next up, it is Threshold Volume 1. Well, it just Threshold. Yeah. Volume 1, The Hunted. Yeah, there's no one of those times where DC put these series in trade and they expect basically the trade to sell so well we'll continue the damn comic book despite the fact we axed the book. Yep, this book contains New Guardians and #1, which is the backdoor pilot to this short-lived comic book, and the 8-issue series itself. I should point out, though, the series had 2 features. One is a guy called Jediah Cal. He is a Green Lantern who became a Green Lantern after he killed another Green Lantern. It's kind of weird. The book itself is written by Keith Giffen. Yes. This series is infamous due to the fact that of the reason why it ended. It was so obvious. Now, I did not hear exactly what was the reason for it. This series was okay when the book was coming out. It did feature Blue Beetle occasionally. Yes. I think the plan was initially, and this is just my personal theory, I think the plan was to feature Blue Beetle a lot more in the book, but probably editorial interference got in the way, and we got sporadic appearances by him. We'd have Captain Carrick in here, acting like Rocket Raccoon. Yeah, because the book came out in 2013, and my only guess is the reason why because the Guardians book just came back that year, so they figured they'll catch the train of Rocket Raccoon because he's popular. That's why the fact the movie didn't come out yet. The movie came out in 2014. The book came out in 2013. The book did have a backup feature for Larfleeze, also by Keith Giffen. And the whole point of this feature, shut up his short-lived comic book. Yep, that was really the whole point of this thing. Now, Jediah Cal is the guy we followed the whole series. His ring is not on his finger. Oh no! They put his ring in his freaking chest! And he spends half the damn series with this ring in his chest. And he figures out, screw it, just takes the ring out of his chest, puts it on, and becomes a Green Lantern again. And then, of course, he gets summoned to, because this program is called The Hunted, he gets summoned to, I think it's the producer, I would say, oh yeah, we're canceling The Hunted. He's like, okay. But we're going to start a new series, you're the start of it, and we're putting the ring back in your chest. And they do it. Yeah. And then, like, in the last issue, they just dump him off someplace and he gets killed as a joke. Blue Beetle himself gets sent back to Earth. And here's the weird thing. Linkara did point us out, though, that he wasn't seen again after this, even though he did appear in Convergence. Though he did appear again after this, like, fully, 3 years later, when he brought back his comic book. Also, I keep giving it as well. Which, that's simply the point of that. It's almost like this book was basically meant to bring, like, obscure sci-fi characters. But Captain Carrick is a character I think some casual companies may have heard of. I say may. But this series is just, I mean, Larfleeze is a character that people are familiar with. But in the case of the other characters, people probably have no idea who the heck they are. We also have Star Hawkins having a feature in the book. Yeah, he's a very obscure character. Yeah, I barely have heard of this guy. Mm-hmm. Captain Carrick, I only know of him because I didn't see him keep popping in our books. Yeah. Is this one of the worst titles of the New 52? No. Because, excuse me, the book had pretty good artwork. Yeah, despite the fact Keith Giffen did write this whole entire series, all the issues of this. These are your artists for these issues. Basically, you had like a whole bunch of artists. This is not surprising. You have Tim Rooney, Phil Wellside, Scott Nolans. Andre Bassin, Timothy Green II, and Joseph Silver. The cover art here is done by Howard Porter and Hi-Fi, which, hey, at least it basically got a chance to have a cover people actually could look at. Well, not full anyways, because this is basically one of those Interline Alone books. I want to be nice to this because it's Keith Giffen. I'm going to give this book an 8.5 out of 10. I mean, it's not one of his best books per se. No, not really. Mainly because the fact that he has written a lot of better stuff in this. And it's strange, though. Like, you give him a book like Threshold, you probably think he would thrive in this book. I think he did okay with this book. That's just my opinion, anyways. Yeah, it was a pretty short-lived comic book, and the only reason why I got it was because of the Green Lantern New Guardians annual. Yeah, and the annual itself, like I said, it's all this annual is just a backdoor pilot to this very comic book. That's literally all the annual is. And it's because of that, this annual was not collected in the Green Lantern Guardians trades. Yeah, that's the only reason why, because this was a spinoff of it. A spinoff that nobody cared about, and from what I heard, the sales of the series were horrible. Yes, like, after the first issue came out, the sales dropped like a big boulder. Like, oh my gosh, it was so bad. Like, let's see if we can find it here. It doesn't list off the sales, but man, the sales for the series were horrible. Like, it just basically like apparently like, I think I heard something. Apparently, this book had like about 15,000 sales when it started, and by issue 2, it dropped down to like 8,000. And somehow this series dragged on for 8 issues. And this wasn't even an ongoing series, despite the fact it lasted 8 issues. If I were DC, I would have just made this a limited series. That's just my opinion, anyways. Yeah. Yeah, and from what I remember, basically marketing for this book, the book was barely promoted. Like, when I heard people online talk about it when this book came out. By the way, this book came out 8 years ago. Can you believe it's been 8 years since this book came out? And I can't think of anybody who even talked about this book. Excuse me. No, not really. A lot of Fleas, I did hear people talk about that book. But this book? No, not really. It's almost like whatever plans they had for the book, basically, they had thrown out the window because the book wasn't selling too well. So they had to keep changing stuff on the fly. And I don't know if it was Keith Giffen's fault or was the editor's fault. Oh boy! You want how many editors these 8 issues had? In 8 issues, this book went through 4 editors. No wonder why the book didn't sell too well, because they kept changing the damn editor. One of the least I've heard of, Joe Calvari, who is a legendary, basically a writer who basically wrote Firestorm. Yeah, have this guy do Firestorm, not freaking Threshold. Yeah. But, not much else to say about Threshold. Just a okay series. Just reality, like, oh, let's go shoot up characters for, like, no explained reason. Now, a lot of the characters, with the exception of Captain Carrick, like, the way characters looking at, I didn't recognize hardly any of the characters, with the exception of Blue Beetle and Captain Carrick. With the exception of those two, like, everybody else popping up in this book, like, oh, and also our Fleas, with the exception of these 3, a lot of these characters, like, barely recognize them. Well, actually, no. We did have one character pop up in this book that I was familiar with. Brainiac. Yes, Brainiac popped up for a few issues. And that was quite strange. And unlike in the case of Telos, where it ended on a cliffhanger and then basically decent with that, this just ended and they kill off the star of the series for like no reason. Yep. But yeah, that's it for Cycle of You. Next one is going to be talking about the final 5 issues of Wolverines and here's the thing, both books have one character in it who appears in both, okay? So you'll find what it is, okay? To this video. Bye.